Good morning, class. Welcome back. The next lesson that we are going to study is Ideals of our Constitution. The topics that we would be covering in this lesson are making of our Constitution, what is a preamble, we would be discussing the key features of our Constitution, and lastly, we would be talking about the fundamental rights and the fundamental duties. Before talking about the making of the Constitution, let us first understand what is the Constitution. As you all are aware that the Constitution is basically a set of rules, laws and principles according to which a state is governed. The Constitution also defines the form of a government. So, the Indian Constitution basically defines India to be a democratic form of a government. The Constitution is essential for every country as it reflects the aspirations of the citizens of the country. Now, students, let us discuss the making of our Constitution. As we all are aware that India was under the colonial rule of the Britishers, and after independence, the leaders of our country felt the need for a constitution, and this need was felt because they wanted to make our country a democratic country. Thus, to draft the constitution, a constituent assembly was formed. In that constituent assembly, there were many prominent leaders such as Dr. Rajendra Prasad, who was appointed as the president of the Constituent Assembly, and we also had Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, who was appointed as the chairman of the drafting committee. Dr. B.R. Ambedkar is also known as the father of the Indian Constitution. Next, let us talk about the Constituent Assembly. What is the Constituent Assembly? The Constituent Assembly basically were a group of people who sat down to draft the Constitution of India. The Constituent Assembly met over a period of 165 days, which was spread over 2 years, 11 months and 17 days. The Constitution was finally passed by the Assembly on November 26, 1949, but it came to effect from January 26, 1950, and this day is being celebrated as the Republic Day of our country. Next, let us talk about the preamble. What is the preamble? The preamble could be understood as an introduction to the Constitution. It could also be understood as the philosophies which are inherent in our Constitution of India, and it is embedded in our preamble. The preamble to our Constitution also has the basic aims and objectives of our Constitution. The preamble declares India to be a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic, and on this basis the foundation of our constitution is being laid down upon. So what is the meaning of the word sovereignty? Sovereignty basically means that India is free from external control and can run its own government and can formulate its own foreign policies. Indian constitution in itself is a testimony to its sovereignty. Next, we talk about socialist. Socialist basically, the term socialist was basically added in the 42nd Amendment, and it recognizes to bring about the economic and social equality along with political equality. All this is done for overall development of the country and to bridge the gap between the rich and the poor. The socialist ideals of our constitution are directed towards bringing the social and economic equality. Next, secular. The term secular means all religions are treated with equal respect and people belonging to all religions enjoy similar rights. In India, whether it be the Hindu or the Muslims or the Christians or the Sikhs, all of them enjoy the same religious rights and they all are equal. Next, let us talk about democratic. The word democratic means that the Indian citizens enjoy equal political rights. The citizens of India also elect their leaders who make laws and who are accountable to the people. All this process is done through elections which are held over a period of 5 years, and all the citizens who are above the age of 18 years are given the right to vote. This process is also called as universal adult franchisee. Next, the last term is republic. The term republic means that the head of the state, that is, the president, is elected by the people for a period of 5 years and it is not a hereditary ruler. Next, let us discuss the key features of our constitution. The key features of our constitution are federalism, secularism, parliamentary form of a government and separation of powers. The first is federalism. Federalism basically means two levels or two tiers of the government. So in this we can see that India also works at two levels, one at the center and the other at the state or regional level. Both these governments have their separate range of powers. These states are not merely the agents of the central government, but they draw their authority from the constitution itself. The powers are also very clearly divided between the union and the state government. Both the parliament and the state legislatures have the powers to make laws on the subjects that are included in their area, and hence we see that the state and the central government, they work together for the development of the country as a whole. Next, let us talk about the parliamentary form of a government. The parliamentary form of a government basically means that India has a parliament. In India, the Prime Minister and the other ministers are responsible to the Lok Sabha for their acts, and we also have the President who acts on the advice of the Council of Ministers. Also, every citizen of the country, irrespective of any caste, creed or religion, can contest the elections for the seats of the parliament. The parliament can be further divided into the three organs which we would be talking about in the separation of the powers. The three main organs are the legislature that frames the law, the executive that executes these laws, and the judiciary that resolves the disputes and maintains the orders within the country. Hence, to prevent the misuse of power, the Constitution has prescribed the functions of each and every organ clearly. There is a balance of power between these three organs, and all these three organs keep a check on one another, and no organ can exercise an absolute authority within the system. Next, let us talk about secularism. As you all know that a secular state is one which does not officially promote any particular religion. It allows equal freedom of faith and worship to all. Hence, we see that India is a secular country wherein whether it be the Hindus, the Jains, the Buddhists, the Sikhs, the Islam and the Christian, they all live peacefully and in harmony with each other. Next, let us talk about our fundamental rights. What are basically the fundamental rights? The fundamental rights have been added in the Part 3 of the Indian Constitution. These rights are justiciable because they are in a provision for their enforcement and they could be violated. The ideals of our constitution can be beneficial for the people of the country only when they have their laws or rights. Hence, some rights which are fundamental to our lives have been guaranteed by the Constitution of India as fundamental rights. We have total of 7 rights. These are the right to equality, the right to freedom, right against exploitation, right to freedom of religion, cultural and educational rights, right to constitutional remedies, and the latest fundamental right which was added is the right to education. So, as you can see this picture is basically talking about our fundamental rights, and these rights could be encroached upon or denied to any citizen of India. If any citizen feels that his fundamental rights have been denied, he can approach the court for justice. The first right is the right to equality. As we all know that the Indian society consists of a lot of inequality, hence to bring about equality in the bedrock of India, the right to equality has been added. The right to equality states that there will be no discrimination that will be made between the citizens on the grounds of religion, race, caste, sex, place of birth, or any other discrimination. The Constitution has also abolished the practice of untouchability, which was an extreme form of social discrimination. Next, let us talk about the right to freedom. The right to freedom basically is one of the most essential human rights. It forms a vital element of our democracy, and the right to freedom basically talks about freedom of speech and expression, freedom to assemble peacefully and without arms, freedom to form associations and unions, freedom to move freely throughout the country, and the freedom to reside and settle in any part of the country. Next, let us talk about the right to freedom of religion. The right to freedom of religion is basically based on the idea of secularism. Under this, the Constitution guarantees to every person freedom of conscience and the right to profess, practice and propagate any religion. The preamble also believes in the liberty of belief, faith and worship. Hence, no person will be allowed to hurt the religious feelings or the sentiments of their fellow brothers or fellow Indians. Next, let us talk about cultural and educational rights. As we all know that India is a diverse country with many religions, communities, languages and cultures. The Constitution therefore protects the cultural and the educational rights of its minorities. Every minority has a right to conserve its own language, script or culture. Minorities too have the right to establish and manage their own educational institutions of their choice. Minorities will also not be denied any admission into institutions which are aided by the government on the grounds only of religion, race or language. Next, let us talk about the right against exploitation. Article 23 and 24 of the Indian Constitution prohibits exploitation of any person in any form. Traffic in human beings, that is selling and buying of human beings, and forced labor, that is child labor, are prohibited. No child below the age of 14 years shall be employed to work in any factory or mine or risk their jobs. Next, let us talk about the right to constitutional remedies. A mere declaration of the fundamental rights is useless unless they are fully protected or there are the means to make them effective. Therefore, the Constitution guarantees the right to move to the Supreme Court for the enforcement of these rights. The Constitution also empowers the High Courts to issue orders for the enforcement of any of these rights. The Supreme Court and the High Courts act as the custodians of our fundamental rights. This is the latest right that has been added to our Constitution, that is the right to education. This act was basically enacted on the 86th Amendment Act of 2002 of the Constitution of India, and it deals with education. It clearly states that the state shall provide free and compulsory education to all the children of the age 6 to 14 years, and the state may not deny admission to any children. Now, next let us talk about the fundamental duties. What are the fundamental duties? The fundamental duties were added to the Indian Constitution by the 42nd Amendment in 1976. These duties were basically brought about to ensure a smooth functioning of our society. It is believed that every citizen who enjoys the fundamental rights should also strive to perform the fundamental duties. But unlike the fundamental rights, fundamental duties are not legally enforceable. But as we, the citizens of India, it is our duty to perform and do our duties as the citizens. In total, we have 11 fundamental duties, which are to abide by the Constitution and respect its ideals and institutions, the national flag and the national anthem, to value and preserve the rich heritage of our composite culture, to cherish and follow the noble ideas which inspired our national struggle for freedom, to uphold and protect the sovereignty, unity and integrity of India, to defend the country and render national services when called upon, to promote harmony and the spirit of common brotherhood amongst all the people of India, to renounce practices to the dignity of women, to protect and improve the natural environment, to develop scientific temper, humanism and the spirit of inquiry and reform, to strive towards excellence in all spheres of life, and to safeguard public property. Next, let us talk about the difference between the rights and the duties. Rights cannot be taken away, but yes, the duties can be taken away. There are 7 fundamental rights, while we see that there are 11 fundamental duties. In case you feel that you have been denied any of your fundamental rights, you can easily approach the court. But if you do not do your fundamental duties, you are not punishable. Fundamental rights could be taken away from you during emergency, but fundamental duties can never be taken away, and it is your duty as citizens to follow these duties. An example of a fundamental right could be the right to freedom, while an example of fundamental duties could be to safeguard public property and to give up violence. So with this, we come to an end of the lesson. I hope you enjoyed studying the ideals of our Constitution, and in case of any doubts, you can always get back to me. Thank you and have a nice day.